Hello, welcome back to the set of movies that Disney did about following up Fantasia, this time with the sequel that everybody wanted, kinda. 60 years after the original, well, 59, because it was actually released in 1999. It's Fantasia 2000. Now, this movie, there's a lot actually to talk about the movie, but the sad thing about it is that the movie is really short. The length of the movie is actually like 74 minutes and a half, pretty much. All you need to know is that this movie was thought about ever since the 90s during one of the brainstormings that Disney had that brought the Renaissance. They were thinking about, oh, let's bring Little Mermaid, the Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, the Kingdom of the Sun, which will later become the Emperor's New Groove. However, this stand out because this was the movie that our good old pal Jeffrey Katzenberg not only wanted nothing to do with it, but was actively against doing it.
And I
So
hate
Roy Disney, not only Roy Disney had to carry this thing mostly on his own, but he was also basically executive meddled by the owner of the Disney back then. I forgot who he's called, Michael Eisner, which
Oh
would have
God.
him which will have been fired 5 years later. So basically, this had a very troubled production managed to get released in 1999, and Disney had the bright idea to make it, at least for a long time, a temporarily IMAX release exclusive, which means the price of a ticket were jacked up, meaning that less people went to see it, and the bomb was pretty much evident. Budget 80 million, box office 19.9 million.
Ooh,
So
you'd almost think they were trying to make this thing fail. And I guess
And this is a
technically,
shame because, as you will see in about a second, the movie is brimming with potential because you can tell they try to make it as close in spiritual energy to the original Fantasia. But let's not beat too much around the bush. Start your copy, either you're watching Disney Plus or Blu-ray or anything, before the actual Disney logo, before the narration that the original narrator had in the original Fantasia. Forgot already his name, because some copies do have a small introduction that has Roy Disney talking about the history of animation of Disney, but we're skipping that essentially. Starting immediately as the movie starting with the Disney logo. In 3, 2, 1, click.
so folks, it's probably symbolic enough that this movie was the start of what is referred to as the experimental era of Disney, and also known as the Second Dark Age of Disney. Basically, the experimental era was the era that followed up the much beloved Renaissance era of Disney. You know, the one that had a lot of the heavy hitters, like, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and of course, Lion King.
Now
Nah.
we're talking about essentially the same thing that the original Fantasia did. How each sequence will be composed. In a sense, they could have 3 times
Fun
of
Yeah,
showcase.
pretty much.
Fun fact,
Um,
actually, back when Fantasia was originally made, the plan was to update it each year, basically adding on a classical piece
Steve
to the
Martin
movie
will
each
tell
year.
about that after this first sequence, Jova. The movie has got you covered for now.
Uh,
But what you will know about for now is the fact that we're starting pretty much immediately, like jump back in the middle with our first piece, Symphony Number 5 by Ludwig van Beethoven, aka Fate Knocking at the Door, which is one of the most famous pieces, so why the fuck not?
okay,
Now,
so
I actually seen this movie in theaters. What about you?
I
never.
did, but it was a long time ago. That's the thing. I do remember, even back then, not really being a fan of the celebrity cameos. To be honest with you, I find them distracting in a
Mhm.
movie
Uh,
in a movie like this.
My stance with this movie is that this is literally the first time I've ever seen it. Oh, now I had seen trailers for it. I had seen talks about it. I have heard Gogor about how this movie is supposedly the coming of Satan or something, with how bad a follow up to the original Fantasia it is.
Eh,
But I've heard
It's
some
not
people.
Nah,
That
terrible.
said,
it's
I have heard some people also say good things about it too. It's just that I've heard more bad than good about this, so I've been waiting to see what all the hubbub is about. But
It's more of a noble failure, but you'll be able to see. So basically, much like the Toccata and Fugue in D minor in the first movie, this is more of an abstract sequence, although it seemed to be having kind of a story with this kind of butterflies. But what about you, Sherry? Did you saw this? Did you actually
I
see this
had
in
no
theater?
idea it existed.
Oh my!
wow.
Nope.
There's a good reason. This
Not
movie.
not until you mentioned it. I honestly had no idea this one existed.
I'm surprised. Like, I mean, for as much as people don't like it, I've definitely heard loads of talks about it.
All right.
I don't really care for it, and even though I do like the first Fantasia, I still have my issues with it. But
All
yeah, this one
all-
definitely
All
feels
right,
a
Java,
bit.
who's ready for some N90 CGI? Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure it looked more impressive at the time.
The prototype for Hercules is looking quite interesting.
Seizure. Yeah, I guess some people didn't change with
So,
the first movie.
I guess those are supposed to represent bats?
Evil butterflies, Java. I don't even know
Aha!
what. Again, they try to say that this is abstract, but it's really kind of following a narrative similar to the Pastoral. The fact that there's these evil, satanic butterflies that are fighting the normal butterflies, and the young one seems to be like the Jesus equivalent. Not even joking.
So, how is the story structure of the skits here? Would you say it's as good as the original Fantasia, at least, or
It's a bit all over the place, and most of them trying to emulate what the one of the original movie had clearly. Some succeeding, other not so much.
Okay. Now, a bit of an admittance, I did see a bit of this movie.
Also, I particularly love the fact that now Fate is not just knocking a door; he's bashing his fucking hand towards it. Open the fucking door, Ludwig.
Goody. Okay, I actually did see a bit of this movie when it was on Netflix. Well, not so much directly. Somebody else was watching it on Netflix at my house, but we saw like bits of it, but then we never actually completed it, essentially.
And who's ready for some celebrity introduction cameos, starting with a very unfunny Steve Martin.
Wait. An unfunny Steve Martin? An
Which is a shame, 'cause-
unfunny Steve Martin? How do you even do that?
It's cringe, just cringe.
Yeah,
Now,
the shame is that Steve Martin, as he's shown in Planters Marvel, it can be amazing when he's given good material. In here, he's just kind of
like when he's just explaining stuff, he's fine. But the moment he starts to inject some comedy into it, it's just ugh. Now, he's actually explained the history, the fact that they wanted to do sequels just by reintroducing some pieces and then introducing new ones, but that idea got lost, and now they're trying to, reincorporate that, which is pretty cool. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. No, Steve, no.
Well, that was terrible.
Okay, Jova, pay attention to the violins in the center of the camera. Their expression says it all. Yes.
Oh.
Thankfully, now we have Itzhak Perlman, an actual musician, telling us about the next piece, Pini di Roma, or Pines of Rome, by Ottorino Respighi. Normally it was done to describe the glory of the Roman Empire in the capital, but here Disney the animators wanted to do something different, which is pretty awesome, and I don't know how they did it. Now, fun fact, back when I was a kid, I actually owned one of those bootleg VHSs similar to one of Good Times, but one that included one Looney Tunes short and one short anime story about William Tell that was done in Japan. And the intro actually did use the Pines of Rome, so I already knew this kind of music when I actually got to see the movie in theater.
Okay, if I can give this movie some credit, oh my god, that animation does look very good for the time. Sure, some of it is aged a bit, but I'd say some of it is aged even well, too.
It's the mixing of CGI and 2D that just doesn't work anymore.
And this is where I should bring this up. Like I said, this is the start of the experimental era of Disney, and it was very experimental. The reason it's called the experimental era is because most of the movies there were, well, let's be honest, they were kind of trying out gimmicks. Some better than others. Like, now you have movies like Treasure Planet, which still to this day look gorgeous. And then you had cases like Atlantis, which have arguably not aged that well. And then there was also Disney ungodly starting their CGI career with Chicken Little. Ugh.
Don't forget Dinosaurs, Jova.
Dinosaurs was good, though. I mean, okay.
Yeah, true, but, it was kind of the start. I remember that sequence that I mentioned with Roy Disney. That was the one star. But anyway, Jova, you will believe now that a whale can fly.
Why?
Yes, really.
Okay.
Because apparently that star in the background is just left a big impulse that lets whale fly. It's just, I don't. It's by any logic it shouldn't work, but it's awesome. I don't know how to tell.
You know what? Yeah, this is awesome.
Cool.
Again, this actually does capture the essence that the first movie had. The idea of having the animation expressed with creativity and the time of the music, just because, no matter how implausible it might have been. Well, in terms of what this is supposedly aping, it's a bit of the pastoral and a bit of the Rite of Spring, just a mix in between, with adding a bit of its own. It also helped that what Steve said about the fact that this new orchestra, the Chicago Orchestra, conducted by James Levine, it's pretty good at its job.
Yeah,
Just
honestly.
eat the birds.
Yay, fuck
Honestly,
seagulls.
you know what? You know what? I'm actually liking this session quite a bit here and there. It's got good animation, the music flows well with the animation and the story going on, and hey, whales flying? That's actually a cool concept, although Junior may be dead now.
No,
Yeah,
don't worry,
remember,
we're
fuck
about to focus
seagulls.
on him.
The segments themselves are fine. They're not nowhere near as artistically impressive as in the original film, but they can tell they're trying their best. I will, however, say that again, much like with the first movie, it also carries the same issue I had with the original Fantasia. Transitions over into this one as well. The various segments don't really have any title. Again, it's just a collection of shorts. Just on a higher budget compared to Melody Time, basically.
Ouch. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
if
You know what?
enjoy-
You know
don't
what?
get
You
me
know
wrong.
what? You know what?
People
You know
like
what?
to
Never
like
mind.
this, and that's fine. I'm just saying that I personally don't like. I personally think if you're going to make an anthology movie, I feel like there should be some kind of tissue connecting all segments to make this add up to something ultimately, instead
When
of
you
just
say
being completely
tissue,
separate from each other.
when you
Go
say
ahead.
tissue, do you mean like actual in-story stuff? Because technically the band stuff here is the tissue holding the ones
Well,
together, but I assume you're talking more
More
so
like
about like an in-story thing.
that's the core problem.
Thematic, maybe.
That's
I
the
guess,
core problem of Fantasia in general. By using such different, by being essential love letter to classical music, they need to tackle different genres altogether, different types of music altogether, and animation kinda, reflects that, meaning that this kind of thing is inevitable, sadly.
You know
Let
what
me
I think
repeat.
would have been?
Well, okay,
Oh,
it's been a while, Joe. So let me repeat what I said in the Fantasia commentary. All of the segments on their own are really fine, and there's nothing inherently wrong with them. It's just that when you put them all together as a movie, it doesn't work as well for me.
I think I
Like,
get what you mean. Like when they're smushed all together, even with the original Fantasia, it's essentially a glorified clip show when you get down
Isn't
to
it supposed to? Isn't that the point? Like a variety show?
Oh, it
Oh, I
is,
get
Shiro.
that
It's
that's
just
the
that,
point. It's
It
okay.
might not be for everyone. That's
yeah,
pretty much
of
it.
course, of course.
Here's what I would have done if I'd been making this movies. Actually do tie them together. Like, sure, have Chernobog be the main villain, but have characters from past sketches have to team up against him. I mean, sure, yeah, you could call it lazy or whatnot, but I think it would be interesting to see flipping Mickey Mouse fighting against the devil. Come on.
You know what I would have done too? Instead of Chernobog killing generic humans, have him kill characters from the previous segments. Now that would have been impactful. You just watch these cute little animals have dances, and now you're watching the devil kill them all. Now,
And like I said, and then have Mickey come in and save the day with his sorcerer powers or something.
I actually haven't seen it yet, but I don't ask you to play for it, Pedro. But just out of curiosity, is that what happens in the video game?
no, the video game. We don't
It's-
talk about
Wait,
the
wait, wait,
Fantasia
wait, wait,
video
wait.
game.
It's bad.
Wait,
It's
there's
bad,
a
Joe.
Fantasia.
It's
Oh, that's right.
it's
You
bad.
mentioned that there's a Fantasia video game. So what?
Yeah, it was terrible, and that's why, and that was the main reason why Disney took control of their games, and that's why we got stuff like Aladdin and Lion King.
So
Is
who's-
it at the very least a rhythm game?
No,
No, it's a
It's a
That was the
platformer.
point.
It's a Mega Drive. Well, rhythm games didn't exist back in the early '90s.
So what? Is it like a platform where you play as Mickey Mouse playing through the levels
Yes.
or whatnot? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you're basically playing
Okay.
through various levels. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, now we're about to enter to the climax of the segment, because now the story is impulsive, or which means it's time to go, Jova. So long and thanks for all the fishes.
That was a thing, I guess. I mean, okay, the concept is...
Hold on, Jova. The segment is kind of tricking you. Give it a minute.
They're dying.
No, actually. Although there is a bit of esotericism for the ending bit.
Okay...
Oh, we're going
It's
into the
it,
void instead.
it's time no, it's time for mass migration actually, not just the family of whales. What I particularly like. Hold on, Jova, you'll see. What I particularly like also about this piece of music on its own is that I get the idea of the thought process they chose. Similar to Ravel's Bolero, this particular final segment of the Pines of Rome is progressive. It has the same type of structure repeated over and over while, growing. It's called crescendo for a reason. So basically, we're using this for the migration, which is something I will mention in the final thoughts for some trivia.
It's mostly because I feel like when you're watching, like, okay, the original Fantasia was longer than this. It was like an hour and 40 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Around 2 hours, I think, actually.
Oh, was it? Oh, was it? Well, regardless, when you're watching a 2-hour movie, and it's just a bunch of sequences where it's just music with funny animation, it gets to a point where, I don't think that's enough to sustain a 2-hour movie personally. Like, again, that's why I said if those segments would have been released individually on their own, that would have been perfectly fine and even great, because the Chernobog short is a masterpiece.
Don't be slow, Jova. We've just started.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, let me guess.
Now that's metal as fuck.
That is pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So, of course, now they swim through the clouds like the clouds are water.
Instead of the sea, yeah. But again, that's what I like about this piece, the fact that it's, again, growing. Doug Walker,
cute.
when he talked about this movie for the Disney Center, Doug Walker mentioned that this should have been the final segment, and I kind of disagree. I think it's fine just being placed as the second one.
It does feel very climactic, though I guess that depends on what exactly this is all going towards.
Like I said, Jova, it's only telling a story in a broad sense, though. So you will see, you're actually pretty close to the end, so you will see. The idea behind is that the star is calling the whales towards it, and again, we pull Hitchhiker's Guide for of the galaxy, and they just straight up leave the Earth.
I do actually like the mixture of 2D and CG done with these whales here and there.
It gets better, but at the beginning was just jarring. We just had to get used to it. Alright, here we go.
Let me guess, it was all a reflection, wasn't it?
It could be, but it could be just when we reached
Space.
enlightenment. Now, and then once again, watching this on the big screen and listening on the big screen, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it must have been.
And that's it.
It must have been cool getting to see that particular one.
All right, Jova. Next guest star, Quincy Jones. Well, you will see in a second because you know the guy playing the piano. Quincy Jones telling us about a piece that you might like. It's time for some jazz. And not just that, this is actually as animation that is strictly based on the drawings of Al Hirschfeld, which Disney had already took inspiration from when, drawing the character of the genie in Aladdin. So there's that.
Okay, do they need to show things in this weird, trippy...
Yes, they kind of did.
Okay.
The Rhapsody in Blue.
Okay.
You might have heard it, actually, Jova.
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
And this is a segment that tells pretty much a definitive story. A bunch of micro stories intertwined with each other. If anything, it's more... I get that this particular segment itself is kind of a love letter to stuff like Melody Time and Make My Music, because it's much more similar to the segments in that, just without an actual song, but instead the proper concert music. Nice. So, our story here takes place in New York around the 30s, let's just say.
Oh boy, Great Depression time?
Yes, at least for one of the stories.
The animation and music are giving me good impressions so far.
This is strictly 2D. There's no CGI in this one. Although it's kind of like The Simpsons, is completely stylized, so kind of like Doug, you will see people with different color schemes all over the place. So yeah, this room is an audio evidence, but our protagonist here wants to be a jazz player, but guess what, Jova? He's late.
Well, shoot.
Of course. Shit
Sure.
happens.
Very stylized.
Yeah, much like the drawings we take inspiration from. No, don't do it, don't, piece of shit.
Dang you.
Also, that's very bad for
There,
you.
you get what you deserve.
Yeah.
Oh,
This feels
that
a
wasn't your
very.
donut.
This feels clearly inspired by animation from the 1960s.
Oh, yeah, job scarce.
Next up is my favorite plotline because it's very relatable. This poor guy, I think it's literally called like Jobless Joe, which is literally on the street. But the thing about it is that he's half lucked. He has half luck because he's literally again on the street without a job and everything, but he has just that pinch of luck that he needs to get away from situation that will make him like go arrested or something.
Interesting.
So basically throughout the entire segment he will spend completely being misery, but not enough to be completely dark. For example, here, a convenient quarter, that's enough for him to pay for his coffee. Jesus.
And hey, he did try to stop the guy, so...
And
Yeah,
he clearly feels like
Joe
garbage
is
for
not
not
evil.
saying
He genuinely has a
anything,
good
so-
heart. It's just that his life is really sucks for him.
Oh.
You can tell when life is mundane, when something that could easily kill a guy doesn't even really elicit so much as a
That
gasp
was
from
the
him.
skyscraper construction. All right, Jova, we're about to get plotline number 3 and number 4 at the same time, with the intensity of a truck in your face.
Okay.
All right.
This poor bellboy.
Does he also have aspirations of something greater than
No,
this?
sadly we don't focus on him, Jova. Our plotline number 3 instead is with the little girl, which will want to spend time with her parents, but instead has to go with Miss Rottenmeier. That's pretty much who he is. And plot number 4 is instead this poor man that is basically a slave towards his wife, and that moped passes for being a dog.
Oh boy. Ah, the
Public
subway.
transport.
Yeah, the time where you could squeeze in public transport by staying very close to each other.
In a time where you could be on public transport.
In my country you still can, but you need to be distanced.
We've stopped that now again.
Damn.
Ah, the rat race.
Okay.
Hello there?
It's gonna be fine.
Are you sure about that?
Well, that's America in the 30s, Shira. Like, if you had a job, you had to hold it as much as you could.
Ah, the good old 1930s, where building a skyscraper literally involved you eating lunch while risking life and limb hanging off of the scaffolding.
Safety first, Jova, case in point.
Wait, what are you doing?
Modern problems require modern solutions, Shira.
Oranges?
No, those are nuts.
Not nuts.
Oh.
These nuts. Yeah, insert your own Aladdin jokes. Oh, and here's a treat for you, Jova. And he eats the apple.
Oh, dickhead.
Pretty much. Oh, imagine the police being like that.
Oh, and
Surely you're jesting.
And we found 3 little girls who are clearly have some kind of issue, considered they're blue for some reason.
Again, this is like the universe. If this was here, will tell about the universe of Doug.
Again, this is literally flat out 1960s. The
It
animation
does.
is
It does
stylized
remind.
as hell.
It does remind me a lot of the Aristocats in a way.
Mhm.
Oh, the Aristocats still looked fairly
Oh no, not the
grounded there in
dog.
terms of its
Oh.
looks. I actually think a better comparison to is to the Pink Panther shorts directed by Chris Frayling.
True. The little girl is also giving me Peanuts vibe as well.
So what, is she like trying to find her hidden talent or something?
Pretty much what her parents want her to do, but the gist is that she wants to be instead more with them.
Maybe she's also a little
And-
too young for this stuff as well.
That too. And also cameo from Mr. Gershwin. Hello.
Huh.
Also, why put a small child on a swivel chair? Just that's the chair that stays there.
Speaking of Aladdin,
Yeah, he's like, whatever. But
What am I supposed to do about it?
yeah, not just that. Al Hirschfeld, which I don't know if he's still alive now, but hopefully, but he was at the time with the movie. He actually commented and mentioned that he actually was pretty pleased with the result of the animation being inspired by his art. So there's that. All right, Shirei, I need to ask your opinion on this because this woman is
Okay.
about to spoil the shit out of a dog with the gifts.
I know people who do that.
Oh no.
Sometimes I think the dog gets more presents for Christmas than I've ever had.
dang.
That's sad. This poor man.
Nope, dogs' birthdays, dogs' Christmases. I've seen plenty of dog owners spoil their dogs like this.
So yeah, life kind of sucks for each of our protagonists.
Imagine life during the Depression era sucking.
That's something unheard of, Joe. What are you talking about? But to be
Even
fair,
going right
now,
down to the children.
now we come to the more iconic musical piece of the segment, which is the one used for the which one that was mentioned before about the fact that Gershwin took jazz and put it on the concert hall. Now, I'm gonna leave the judgment about the logistic of a white person taking jazz, into the concert hall and now suddenly be admired to you, Jova, because I clearly not qualified to talk about that. But I can say on the subject level that I like the piece and that's that.
Oh, look, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with white people celebrating, enjoying, or liking jazz. It's only a problem when they try to take credit for creating jazz.
Yeah, I actually don't know if that's actually what happened. So again, I don't have experience on the matter.
Well, wait, are there actually white people trying to take credit for?
No, but here's the thing. I don't remember actually which time Gershwin did compose this. So it could have been just another time. But the fact that the segment at the beginning, the piece at the beginning did mention that he took Janice, dressed her up, and put her in the concert hall. Talking like it's a person.
There,
I don't.
there
I
are.
actually, to be fair, Jova, if it was the case, this would be more talked about, especially these days. So I get it's not really as problematic.
It's not as problematic as it used to be. It's just
Mhm.
that, of course.
point-
Oh, go on.
The point is that each of these characters dream of a better life and freedom, only for reality to settle in again.
Reality is often disappointing, isn't it?
More news at 11. Oh no.
Oh!
How many is a 10-year?
Oh! Oh! Oh,
Oh
God!
dear. Let me
That's the-
guess, you have
that's
to
the-
pay for that stuff, don't you?
Yeah, that's the Steam sale in a nutshell. But the inspiration can come from something little. And just like, the idea of throwing a single pebble in a lake can create a ripple effect, just at the beginning of doing something can have repercussion on everything else. But yeah, Joe, it's time to make a choice. So what do you value the most? Stability of job or the risk of music? Of music, kind of like what Soul did in a way. I love the
Yeah.
fact that it turns towards the camera. That's actually a brilliant way of animation, but I'll talk more in final thoughts. But basically, yeah, fuck this.
And look at that, it's gonna Bugs Bunny its way down.
To
Thank God that
Jobless
did-
Joe. which means he has a job.
Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
And he's happy about it.
Well, yeah, this guy just wanted a job no matter what, so why not? Oh, here's a joke also for you, Jova.
Yeah. Something that the Wiz would even touch base on.
And something Avenue Q would make a joke about.
Oh.
Shit.
No, not the ball!
It has another musical I'd love to watch, but
What?
This
Sorry, Pedro.
Avenue Q. I'm a big fan of Chris and Robert Lopez, Jova, so I would love to watch that musical as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh, the humanity!
These poor parents.
There you go! Your parents are here for you now!
Yeah, these nannies sucked at their job, sorry. Alright, Joe, we only have one more thread to loosen up.
Oh, yeah.
A pinch of fate.
Oh, it's gonna kill his wife?
It's a literal Deus Ex Machina, Jova.
Oh.
So, I guess he had dreams of that too?
Well, he just wanted to be essentially free to do whatever he wanted, and here's our conclusion for it.
I guess his wife is dead, so he can do it.
No, she's fine.
She's good.
And all the while New York turns into Las Vegas. Jova, is there something we don't know?
Neon. Okay, I'm gonna say it. This is my favorite short so far.
This actually was my favorite back when I watched it in cinema.
It's definitely the one that has the most personality.
Bat Mildred, what are you doing here?
Goodness.
Hey! Don't you diss?
That's the problem. They gave her another bad script to recite because if that's the case.
Okay.
Because she's about to basically diss Salvador Dali. Well, talking about some scrap at concert, like the Ride of the Valkyries, which would be pretty cool to see when we haven't seen yet.
So what? Did they bring it back for this movie?
Hello?
Oh no.
Seriously? Salvador Dali was one of the more influential artists of the fucking century. Jesus Christ, pay some respect. But Ride of the Bumblebee, we did saw it in Melody Time. The Children Ballet was actually also scrapped, and this as well. The Dali segment will actually be incorporated for a short we will see another time called Destino. And now time instead to have an adaptation of another Hans Christian Andersen story, The Teen Soldier.
Is it good?
I'll let you judge that, Jova, because let's just say that Disney, if you remember, comes also from Little Mermaid and Frozen. Disney has a track record of changing stuff from Hans Christian Andersen adaptation, and we did the same here. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Jova. This is almost entirely in CGI, which I get the thought process. Toy Story was only a couple of years before this, so we wanted to go for a similar vibe.
Interesting.
But yeah, also as mentioned, the music segment is called the Piano Concerto Number 2 in F major of Shostakovich. Go on, Pedro.
See, here's the thing that people also have to remember about that too. When you actually read those stories don't really lend themselves to adapting into other mediums. That's the problem with these when you try to adapt a Hans Christian Andersen story. Outside of maybe like The Ugly Duckling, very few of them. And even The Ugly Duckling to an extent has a problem as well. One of the big problems with Christian Andersen's story, it's not a problem within the medium that he wrote for, little children's books, but when it comes to translating it into a cartoon, it becomes more of a problem because the problem with Hans Christian Andersen's writing is that the characters have little to no the main characters in his stories have little to no agency. It's just stuff happening to them.
Oh, let me guess, he doesn't fit in.
Have you actually read the original story, Jova?
No.
Oh, it's a treat for you, but I will tell later.
It's Hans Christian Andersen, so it's of course horribly depressing, and the protagonist has to die at the end.
This is actually one of the shortest segments of the entire movie, so unfortunately I will have to tell the details in the final thoughts.
Really?
But yes, really. Yeah, they abridged the story so much, and it's already a short story in its own. I don't know how they did it.
Huh.
Well, shit. But to be fair,
Oh
the way it's
no, he only has
the
one
way it's
foot.
portrayed
Aw.
here, I actually kind of like the way it's portrayed here because even the meaning of the original story, in a way, was about two things. One, more sympathy towards the veterans of war because the missing of a leg is clear representation of that. And two, in general, empathy and giving dignity instead with people with disabilities. It's pretty cool. Again, it's one of those things that are only implied, but as the time passes, people start to notice.
Again, you know what? The animation here actually is interesting. It almost feels like a precursor to, well, sort of, how should I put it? Fake stop motion kind of.
Again, it's clear that we went with a similar vibe of Toy Story, just in a different art style, and it
the
works
same thing-
honestly. Yeah,
It's the same thing that Snack World does, using CGI to emulate stop motion.
So I guess this gesture guy is corny for the
it's
ballerina or
evil,
something.
and he lost for the valor. I gotta be honest, this I don't remember if this figure actually was in the original tale.
Oh no,
This
Hakaimatsu.
character, you mean? No, this character was not in the original too.
Yeah, makes sense
Oh,
because it was only about a series of misunderstandings and unfortunate coincidences. Because the original tale, the tin soldier essentially gets thrown out of a window by accident. I forgot which specific reason
Yeah.
was it.
Let me guess, he gets
one
thrown
of those
out, and then
things-
the way the story ends is with him being lost forever there.
You wish.
The problem with
Oh,
Hans Christian-
really?
one of the problems with Hans Christian Andersen as well, which makes it very hard to deal with, Theo, is the fact that his stories basically boil down to just depression for depression's sake, really. And it really becomes a thing
It's
where
weird because the Ugly Duckling really does stand out by having an actual happy ending.
Yeah, and that's like the one, Theo. That's the thing.
Although,
Oh.
no, I think the original Snow Queen tale actually had a happy ending.
Well, crap. So he literally
I'll
got.
have to look it up.
When it
sent-
comes to Little Mermaid, instead, it's a more esoteric in a way that she dies, but she does have a way to come back potentially. She does need to be a good girl. Ugh.
Wait, did they actually make a sequel to the Little Mermaid book?
No.
Let's talk about the original story.
The original tale ended by having Ariel, the equivalent of Ariel, dying. But the idea is that as long as she manages to have little kids behave, her sentence will be shortened by like 10 years each.
Oh, usually I've
is
just heard
it?
the thing about her dying. I didn't know about her being able to come
Hold on, Tim.
back.
Well, okay. It's been a while since I've
Oh,
read it, Theo, but
cute.
it's been a while since I've read it, Theo, but from what I remember, it's the whole thing where if she has to, as long if she manages to attain love, she'll become an immortal soul. I do remember that bit, but I don't remember.
Oh, gotta be honest, this is the first time I get no discrepancy with that. So I will have to do research on the matter.
True
So,
Wikipedia.
so is this also a thing in the book? Like,
Yes,
in-
he actually goes to the story. The rats actually do talk, and the reason they're attacking because he has no passport. Hilarious. But instead gets thrown instead into the sea, which, as it's accustomed with pollution, which means that a random fish will just eat him.
Oh.
Another thing with it's one of those things too. It really is one of those things where, at least to me, if you go back and read a lot of these stories, if you ask me, again, it's a lot like the stories that were written around that time, just like with the Brothers Grimm stories. They really show their age bad.
I guess, but my main point is that why not just add instead of changing entirely?
Well, that's the thing too. It becomes hard to turn the story more meaningful and not have so much depression without heavy retooling. That's the problem. These stories, trying to present a story that's just depression for depression's sake for a modern audience is very difficult.
Okay,
It's very
okay.
difficult.
To be fair, in Tio's case, though, there is also the argument, though, that sometimes some
Hold
stories
on, I
are...
need to talk about this. What a coinkydink. So, Java, what happens in the original tale is that the kid found him, he thinks it's so disgusting and he yates it into the furnace. Here instead we were like, no, he actually cares about his fucking toy.
Oh, and look at that! It completes the set.
Well, remember, it was a part of the original, so... But again, the original just ended pretty much at this point. The tin soldiers got yated into the furnace. The ballerina, out of desperation, follows him. And the last phrases that it's mentioned is the fact that once the furnace got extinguished the little day, the only two things that remained were a piece of the ballerina's cloth and the heart of a tin soldier. That's
So
that's miserable.
wait, hold on, wait. That's essentially the ending of Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I guess, in a way.
Where the
Also, I have to question the fact that this kid has a toy with an actual sharpened sword.
Can we like just murder this guy?
We're about to, sure, because again, gotta speed up because the short is almost over.
Well, someone's getting eaten into a furnace.
Again, the final
Lion
bits of the short
King!
go super quickly.
Whoa, he literally just got Lion Kinged.
And the music is so happy.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Again, don't be slow.
Okay, I'll admit this is one case where I don't mind them having a happier ending, but I do agree with you that maybe it feels like it went
Okay,
by a little too
Jovan.
abrupt.
Next up, we are gonna have James Earl Jones.
Hey, Eric Goldberg.
Hey, James!
We're gonna have James Earl Jones introducing, sadly, what I consider the worst piece of the movie.
Don't tell
Here's
me.
the thing, Java. They decided to take one segment of the Carnival of Animals on Coming Soon animated. Pretty cool. There's a lot of things to do with. They took basically the final piece, which is super short, and transformed into a Looney Tunes routine.
Is this the one that involves Donald?
James, we're not doing Lion King anymore. Oh, there we go. Excuse me.
That is literally Mufasa. Wait, what? And that's the lead into this? Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that's our segment. A flamingo that will stand out amongst the rest of his flock with yo-yos. Yeah, I agree. This is generally the worst of the bunch.
Let me guess. Is this where the movie starts to become, the not so great bit that
Not
I've
really,
heard
Jovan.
about?
Like I said, it's all over the place.
Remind me again, Tia, what was the segment in the original film with the crocodiles and the hippopotamuses?
Yeah, the penultimate, the third
That's
ultimate
instantly
one.
what I thought of with this.
Yeah, because it, much like that one, this one is also the one that really feels like, okay, this, unlike the other ones, which had a more restrained, more mature tone to them, this one is just flat out cartoonish and kiddish.
Okay.
Like, remember what I said about the beginning, Jova, about stay tuned to the spirit of the original movie? This one goes over the fucking board with it.
So here's the problem I have. We're only a few minutes, actually no, less than a few minutes
We're more than halfway through, Jova.
Wait, and we're almost already done? And here's what I have to ask. Why? That is something I should never have to ask in a cartoon, is just why. Because, okay, look, the idea with this is that we should have sympathy for the one who's different and looked down upon. But no, I mean, he's
an asshole.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like if Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was the jerk all along and he had it coming to him.
In the meantime, Teo, here it is. I thought I remembered. See, the Little Mermaid cannot bring herself to kill the sleeping prince lying with his new wife, and she throws the dagger away and herself into the ship. Blah blah blah. Her body dissolves into foam, but instead of ceasing to exist, she feels the warm sun and discovers that she has turned into a luminous and ethereal.
Yeah, that's what they mean. Then another one.
Let me finish.
No, sorry.
As the Little Mermaid ascends into the atmosphere, she is greeted by other daughters who tell her that she has become like them because she strove with all her heart.
Hold on. Hold on. Now, Jova, Penn and Teller.
What the fuck are you guys doing here?
Not just that, Penn is gonna try so hard to not swear in this introduction, by the way.
Okay, guys, Teo, from what you told me, this thing cost a lot of money. Why did they spend so much money on all these celebrity guests?
Cameos. It's almost as if we were afraid.
Like,
but go on, Pedro, because now we're about to, not even kidding, we're about to rehash the entirety of The Sorcerer's Apprentice from the first movie.
Wow.
Not even kidding. And here's the thing, Jova, the baffling thing. The Chicago Orchestra actually did their own take on The Sorcerer's Apprentice in terms of recording. But in terms of music, the movie instead has the original movie's take. So it's a complete rehash. It's not like a thing of the Chicago Orchestra will just, redo the piece and will reuse the same animation. No, so it's a complete rehash on that. So since nothing that we haven't already seen is going on, go on, Pedro.
Yeah, like,
no, I'm sorry. You can't be serious.
Yes, Jova, sorry.
Now,
like you yourself said, Jova, the experimental era was quite the doozy.
But
that particular segment just came and went, huh?
Yeah. So we
now, Jova, to be fair, what are you doing? At the beginning, still Mark. Steve Martin.
Yes.
Oh, the bunny is cute though. But
Aww.
Steve Martin did mention at the beginning that the idea of Fantasia sequels was to repropose also older pieces. But here's the thing. One,
Wait, the animation is the same too. They
Yeah,
didn't even
yes,
update it or
here's,
anything.
here's the thing, Jova. One, the movie is already short as it is. Do you really need to feel the need that in order to inflate him a bit, you need to reuse pieces from the original? And keep in mind, during marketing suggested that he also wanted to re-include both the Nutcracker suite and the Dance of the Hour that we were mentioning beforehand.
Can
So it
we
was
copy
even
paste? Can we copy paste the commentary of the original into this part?
No, because we actually have something else to talk about. For example, I forgot to mention that the fact that the original piece was composed by God, I forgot. I was searching in the meantime. Go on, Pedro. Continue what you were saying.
Yes. It says right here too, because she strove all her heart to obtain, she learned to love and shit. She obtains an immortal soul, and so because of her selflessness, she is given the chance to earn her own soul by doing good deeds. And one day she'll rise into heaven. So it doesn't mention anything about taking care of
Weird.
little kids or something.
The version that I got was the same, but there was a thing added in a sense that the Little Mermaid did mention at the end, was like, "Oh, I'm happy that this will happen," but the other spirit will tell, "Here's the specific. If you manage to influence, the life of little humans, your sentence will essentially be shortened by like 10 years, and you'll be able to ascend earlier on. But if instead you fail, you will have another year added to it." So I don't know which version actually I've read.
In here, it doesn't say anything. It doesn't say anything about getting her sentence or whatever. It just says literally, do good deeds for 300 years, and then you'll go to heaven. It literally just says right here. But regardless.
Anyway, I forgot. There we go. The number that he was talking about, Paul Dukas, the original composer of Sorcerer's Apprentice, which I dare you see, as variously this got actually its own live-action movie adaptation with Nicolas Cage a couple of years later. So there's that. But yeah, again, Jova, there's the fact that not even just that, and a third thing that I forgot to mention from before, the fact that as people in TV Tropes also pointed out, this could have been the perfect opportunity to use that piece that was supposed to be used with Claire de Lune of Debussy, that was actually instead used for Make My Music, with the actual Debussy piece that was supposed to be. Like, that would have been the perfect opportunity, but no, they don't do that. If I recall correctly, it is in one of the Blu-rays as an extra for either this or the original Fantasia, but, too little too late, seriously. Like, and don't get me wrong, the Sorcerer's Apprentice is super iconic, I get that. It's just that, it clashes with everything that's going already wrong against the movie.
Here's my stance on this. You want to include the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Okay, fine. But maybe update it. Like, what is this supposed to be? Like a gimmick, literally including old stuff, like it's a clip show here and there?
Again, the ideal for the process was the fact that the Chicago Orchestra would have done their own take on executing the music, which would have been honestly fine for me. You reuse the same animation, but had a different orchestra composing it, in a modern way. But again, the thing is included only in the soundtrack album. For the actual movie, they just completely rehash because they were already having the trouble development cycle, and they had to scrap whatever they could.
It's one of those it goes on, well, just to finish my let's just finish my earlier point, since we've already commented on this. It's also, I'm guessing too, you've also seen the one that was supposed to go for Fantasy 2006, the little match girl.
Both the Little Match Girl and Destino. I don't remember if there were other shorts.
It's I think one of those things too is just because nowadays when it comes to writing stories, we are always taught to give the audience some kind of not necessarily a positive catharsis. You can have a sad ending still. It's just that there has to have some kind of ultimate meaning to it. Whereas the thing with Alex Christian Andersen's original tales is that when you read them, they don't really have like some kind of grand moral or some kind of ultimate meaning or like it's especially
Except for
when
the
you
ugly duckling.
look at the little match girl, for example. It's literally just this little girl freezing and then dying at the end. That's it. Like, and there's no grander point that the story is making. And it's, I guess it's one of those things where too, like when it comes to more modern scrutiny, those stories don't necessarily, and that's why
It's funny when you
they're
mention that. It's funny when you mention that because already pretty much almost half a year, but I've been playing a little mobile game that is called Sinoalis, which talks about these characters from Fairy Tail that not only present
That's
that.
the Taro game.
Yes,
right?
well, I was about to get to that, Shiroi. That
Okay.
talks about these characters from Fairy Tail, that not only talk about what the original meaning was, but deconstructs them even more to showcase how fucked up they were. And I think it works really well. Guess who the director and writer of that is?
not sure. It's probably yeah.
I'm
Pretty
sorry,
much.
I spoiled it.
I get the idea with enough of a good writer, you can make this stuff even for everyone, not just adults. I'm sorry.
No, definitely too. But you just said he deconstructed it though. Like, I'm talking about
in
telling the story.
in addition as well, because it's basically it's divided in acts or chapters. The first couple of ones are to just present the character as it is, as the way we knew from the original fairy tale, and the subsequent one are about to deconstruct it. Then there's the third one that tells that all these characters were real people in the real world who died horribly, but it's a story for another time.
It's one of those things too where I have yet to see, like for example, the Thumbelina Dawnbluth movie technically kind of goes through all the plot points of the story.
Okay, I have
But
to.
it's
I honestly
still
don't
ended up
remember
being-
the original tale, to be honest.
If I may ask
Yes,
a
Joe?
question, so they're redoing this thing. Are the orchestra at least playing over this, or are they also including the old
No,
audio
I already
from it
told
as
you
well?
a couple of times, Jova. Like I said, the Chicago Orchestra did recompose the piece, but it's only including the soundtrack for the actual movie. They're still using the original movie soundtrack.
So
Yeah,
you
they
made
just took the clip with the music and
You can
everything and
you can
shoved it
definitely
here.
you can definitely hear it, but the fact that the audio quality is
yeah,
clearly different.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
no.
It's just I don't get it. So for the actual movie, you don't include the new rendition to at least separate it. And okay, look, you know what? For people who didn't get to see this particular scene in the theaters before, then yeah, goody for them. They get to see it in cinema. But really, is this gonna be like your main selling point?
I would have preferred if they reused the Chernobyl sequence, but I understand that you can't really show that to a mainstream audience nowadays.
No, Pedro. You can show it to a mainstream audience. Just call him Chernobog instead of the devil. Trust me, you'll
Pretty
get away
much,
with it.
Joe, even if you call him Chernobog, really?
Yes.
Remember, there's points where you see boobs in it.
That might actually have been a bit more problematic, Joe, with the rating and everything.
Here's the thing. You see boobs, but you don't see the actual tips. As long as the nipples aren't
Actually, they were present, Joe. I watched the movie.
JT.
I watched the movie the other day just to be sure,
Aren't
not to check
there
everything.
versions that cut the nipples at least? I don't
There are
know.
Shiroi, but the current version that was released original on Blu-ray back in 2010 and is now on Disney Plus is the uncensored version.
But Pedro, that's the 2010 version. For this version, they could have easily have censored it. And you know what? Honestly, they wouldn't have had to have censored it. It's fire tits, okay? Like, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of cases where fire boobs are actually okay. I can't believe that I have to specify
Moses,
that, but yeah.
You're not
Jens,
Moses.
You're not Moses, Jens Sid.
Use your fucking keyblade for a change.
Hey, by the way, did you know that my name spelled backwards is Disney?
And we're gone. I hate my job.
Yeah, okay, look. Honestly, let's be honest. The real reason that they brought this one back was because it's the
Nostalgia pandering also.
It's the Mickey one. For as iconic as the Chernobog one is, the Mickey one is the one that people
Pretty
remember
much,
the most.
I personally would have
Just
preferred
because
instead the
Mickey
Rite of
exists.
Spring, but I get the idea that outdated science
Although-
and length would have discouraged people from watching it.
Not only that, too, but Rite of Spring kind of has the controversy that the composer of that hated that Walt did some executive
It's fun
meddling.
you
and
mentioned
took out the
mentioned that, Joe, because it didn't stop people from including Stravinsky in this movie.
Oh, you mean...
But that's for later, because now we have also the ending bit where Mickey congratulates Stokowski, but to be fair, they actually transitioned it in a good way. Just watch.
Oh, hey, the original audio. Now we can hear
Yeah,
it.
but again, Jova, just watch. And it transitioned to Mickey going instead to Mr. Levine. And again, this was the time Mickey was still voiced by Leia Levine.
Okay.
And now, Jova, time for some ever more fancy, because it's time for Donald to actually get his own fucking segment.
Okay, you know what? That was actually a pretty cool.
Okay, Jova. Here's the interesting thing about this. Now we're about to get, because you're more familiar with this, pomp and circumstance.
Oh.
And apparently this was actually mandated by Michael Eisner. That's the only reason why it's in the movie.
Wow. Let me guess.
Also, by trivia for you, Pedro, that Scream of Daisy apparently was done by Lucy Taylor.
Also, I love the implication that Mickey walked in on Daisy naked thinking she was Donald.
And just did already also for Donald.
Commentary on the fact that if you literally remove her bow and dress, Daisy looks exactly like Donald, so...
Okay, Jovan. Now Donald Duck is a servant of Noah and has to help him get the animals to the Ark.
Wait. He's a servant of Noah? I always thought that he just took the role of Noah himself.
No. I found it more hilarious the fact when Mickey practices black magic while Noah is a servant, or Donald is a servant of God.
Didn't Noah do the thing with just his family? I don't remember him having a servant.
No, we just this is our Noah fan fiction with Donald Duck shown in.
Also, those polar bears were straight out of Balto.
I know, right?
The rabbit gets to live one more day.
The cool thing about this is that each animal gets to be animated in a way that resembles an older Disney movies, like with the elephants here, for example.
Hey, Lion King! No, that's
actually more like Jungle Book.
No, T. I was talking about the shot of the birds flying in towards it. That was clearly a Lion King shot.
Now,
the Ark of Noah.
Now, weirdly enough, much like in Cow and Chicken, we never see the humans' faces. Weirdly enough, we will see only Noah and his family from the waist down.
So I'll say this is...
And yes, Donald has the unfortunate task of having to get all the animals in the Ark in proper order.
Wait a minute, but Donald's a duck. So wouldn't that mean...
We'll get the paradox later, Jova, don't worry.
Don't go for that rabbit hole.
And Donald is naked. I'm not even sure how to...
To be fair,
all the other animals are naked.
To be fair,
Daisy!
This happened in the shorts as well.
Yeah, this is also, to be fair, this is also a love letter to all the Donald Duck short, in the sense that the world is against him. Now.
Okay. Wait, hold on. He's leaving Daisy behind, but Daisy, if you go...
No, actually, no. She's doing another type of caretaking, but while Donald is doing all the heavy lifting.
Okay. So at the very least, he'll be able to mate too, because Daisy is there as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Joe. I feel like it would have been much easier if they would just made Donald Noah. Well, I mean, why even have this servant angle?
I literally thought he was Noah from
everything. Do we need to stand up for this? I don't know.
What is this playing here?
That's the thing, Shira. There you go. There's your paradox, Joa. But here's the thing, Shira. Like I said at the beginning, to be fair.
Oh, and look at that, of course. The unicorn, dragon, and other mythological creatures all laughed at Noah, and they'll totally live forever, except not, because they'll be extinct.
Also, the color scheme of those mice were clearly inspired by Bianca and Bernard. Anyway, Edward, as mentioned at the beginning, Sir Edward Elgar did compose the piece to be used in ceremonies in general, not just graduations.
Okay, they actually did address that. Apparently Donald and Daisy are their own species.
Whoop. And now it's time for contrived coincidences. Now these two will miss each out for the rest of the segment, for the sake of, kind of like in An American Tale, which each of them believing that the other died in the flood.
With American Tail, I'm guessing being.
Let me guess. By the end, they'll finally reunite. Okay.
Pretty much. Well, the locket should have given you a clue that the fact that it's heavily used as symbology.
I mean, okay, it's interesting, but am I the only one who finds it weird that they're trying to be serious about that when we have comedic hijinks going on?
Jova, I will tell you more in the final thoughts, but let's just say that the original idea behind this particular show was much, much more insane.
Really?
Because this is pretty baffling.
All right. To be fair, no. Again, I will save it for the final thoughts. But yeah, just like the mythos said, after the flood, we tried to send, a dove gently. I said, gently, please. Yet. But you see, now it's Now he realized that he just done the same that happened to him. Also, you're telling me that for 40 days these two missed each other. Like this.
If I have to suffer,
Apparently-
everyone else does too.
But yeah, just like what happened, the dove eventually returned with a branch of the olive tree in order to symbolize the fact there was land. And like magic, on the Ararat mountain, the ark resigned there.
I will.
Oh.
Please.
I will say this though, I do like the implication that Daisy and Donald are literally just actors for this bit here, as you know,
Yeah.
the bit with Mickey implied.
Ooh.
So, hey, maybe it's implying that everyone was just an actor for Fantasia, which, to be fair, House of Mouse does imply that Chernabog was just acting as well. Oh,
But the thing that Donald just went through kinda is the same thing that almost happens to Uncle Scrooge in the DuckTales movie. Weird.
yeah, what an interesting choice of theme for this.
Again, Java, the original concept was even more
Oh,
insane and more
there were only 2 rabbits when we left.
cheery, we're rabbits. Just
Well, to be
you know.
fair,
That's
to
the
be
joke.
to be fair, this is still relatively easier than what the NES video game was like.
Really?
Again, do I need to stand up for this?
I feel like I'm obligated to. We don't even play this around here.
Again, my country
It's
does not have this
so
concept of
dissonant.
using this music for graduation, so it's completely alien for us.
Yeah, this was clearly made for Americans. But no, well, Jova, have you ever seen the Angry Video Game Nerds review Bible Adventures?
There you go.
I've heard
It
of
was an
it.
NES, it was an NES game made by Wisdom.
Oh, and look at that. They found each other.
Again, I like the idea of it. Again, this show in general is also a love letter to all the shorts, and I actually like that.
Yeah, I'll admit, for the issues I had with the short, this is actually a good, nice, and
All
wholesome
right,
one.
and now, Java, we're about to get to the last one. Yes, we're already at the end of the movie. Now,
Wait, what?
Angela Lansbury,
Oh.
aka Miss Jessica
Hey, Angela.
Fletcher, will introduce us to my favorite piece,
Oh.
the Firebird of Igor Stravinsky. Now,
Oh.
if you don't know anything, the Firebird is a suite, but it's like, 40, 50 minutes long, so we had to trim it down. Fair enough. The problem is that they chose only 3 pieces, fair enough, but they trimmed each of them even more.
And we
which is-
immediately just transitioned right
Yeah.
into it, like no big
Which is
grandiose thing or
which is a
anything.
huge disservice because the Firebird suite is such a beautiful piece of music. So butchering like this is just horrible. And now to give the positives also the way everything you see is 2D animated. There's no CGI whatsoever, even when it looks like. And this is using the old layer technique that was already used in stuff like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so which is pretty cool. Now, the original tale of the Firebird is about this young prince who wanders into the woods and finds these mythological firebirds, accidentally capture it. The Firebird tells him it's a mistake, the prince frees him, and eventually the Firebird helps him defeating the villain of the story, an evil wizard with his infernal creature that has taken prisoners a bunch of princesses. Cue the prince getting your princesses and get a happy ending. I am shocked that the Firebird tale in general has never been adapted in any capacity to this day, because it's so easy to fit with the formula. But anyway, for this short, we instead actually have this sprite bringing back the nature after the winter, which is pretty cool. And again, the Chicago Orchestra does a fantastic job replicating Stravinsky's original idea. It is pretty cool, which is a shame that it's so butchered down.
What?
Well, again, Java, it's a fairy sprite that helps the nature growing. There you go, like this.
Cute. So what's Bambi doing here?
Yeah, I was wondering how long it would have took you before saying that.
I mean, with all your talk about a prince and everything, and we see a deer
it's a
and
bit
whatnot.
weird. You will see this tag is actually more like of a guardian figure, kind of like Aslan in Narnia, but only due time because turns out her powers it's not like her power has a limit, but it's like she's entering into someone's domain.
The Firebirds.
Well, obviously it's a volcano. Now, here's the thing. for trivia. I was barely 8 when I watched this movie, and I was in a big theater, which had a very good acoustic and a very big screen. Sure, with my parents and all, but I was there. And as you may have noticed through the commentaries, I'm very susceptible to jump scares, sudden noises, and all shit.
Oh,
So imagine what's gonna happen now, Jova.
Yeah, I'm preparing. There we go.
We transition to
Oh.
the masterpiece of the entire Fireboard, the Infernal Dance, and which clearly tries to be like Night on Bald Mountain, just with a toned down effort. But here's the thing, Jova, like I said, in the original tale, the Firebird was more like a helping figure toward the protagonist. This Firebird just wanted to have his beauty sleep, but this fairy just woke him up, and I'm sorry, she needs to die.
This is
Oh.
this is apparently something that Disney tends to do. They either give stuff that previously had bad or nuanced endings, purely good endings, and they sometimes make figures that were more neutral or nuanced figures straight up bad guys.
Now, like I said, I understand using only selective pieces of a Firebird, which does make sense. Again, the original play is super long, so using only a selected few, which are the better. The Infernal Dance is actually the highlight, so it makes sense to include it. But botching like this, combined with what happened in the original Fantasia movie towards Igor Stravinsky, feels even more of a disservice towards the poor guy who was dead by now.
Oh my god, wait, this is from the same guy who did the Rite
Right
of
on
Spring.
Spring, and you can hear from the
Oh.
musical style.
It's funny because he hated what Disney did when butchering his own tune, especially since, I really don't get, ironically, that's one of the few times where Disney didn't go for a more happier ending. And it's in a case where it would have been
we're
in the
about to,
rights
but
to.
first, Jova, the orchestra vibrates one last time
And...
before slashing in your face, basically, with this.
dead.
It's pretty. Again, the Infernal Dance is actually my favorite piece of classical music of all time for a good reason. It's perfect and was so ahead of its time when Stravinsky composed it. But to be fair, we cannot have a bad ending, so let's move on from there because we're using actually the final piece.
So is that it for the Firebird?
Pretty much. Now, here's the thing, Jova. To be fair, with this also the Disney animators wanted to pay homage to the actual eruption of Mount St. Helens. So that's why we constructed it to be more like this.
I think my issue with the Firebird is this. Like, compare this to Chernobog, a guy who was so evil that he tormented an entire village.
And only got defeated because the cops banged at his door.
Yeah, here... Well, is the Firebird really so much a villain, so much as a guy who just...
He's a guy who wanted his beauty sleep, and instead he was negated from that.
And he killed one person. I get it, she's probably tied to old nature and everything, but...
There's also,
He's just doomed the planet, Jova.
Like I said, also, there's this figure of the stag, which is more esoteric in its own. It's more similar to, say, much like a lion is the king of the savannah, the stag is kind of, revered as a mystical figure of the forest. So I get the idea I wanted to go for a parallel, similar again to Aslan in Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh!
They showed that in Bambi too, with Bambi's father just standing above everyone the entire time, not really actively participating. Just
Look at that! And she's back!
Yeah, I especially found it a bit jarring years later where they're treated... Like the way she's cowering and all, the fact that she is, being a victim of so much violence, I don't know, I maybe am seeing too much, but I wonder if they actually went for a potential rape allegory.
I mean, it's a very loose one. I'm not getting,
I wouldn't say that's what they did.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's why I need judgment of others as
I'm
well.
not I'm trying to think of a way to describe what they actually did, but I don't think that's what they did.
Maybe you could say that it's hard to say if she was really violated or she provoked the Firebird or whatnot.
No, she was only too curious about the things. The problem is when
obviously.
she received a disproportionate amount of violence in return.
Which, maybe that's an allegory for nature and how, natural disasters can...
Yeah, like I said,
they're both
also
opposing elements of nature.
Also, yes, drove magical tears.
That said, though, like I said, I feel like the Firebird doesn't have as much impact if, the next scene we see is literally her coming back.
And pretty much even better than before, as you will see in a second. But again, the music is so much better. Like it's so really good, and the fact that he had so much potential and they wasted a lot.
I think they will eventually rebuild. I think is the point.
And considering how modern adaptations tends to be done, I get the feeling that nowadays we'll probably never see an actual adaptation of the actual Firebird story with this music because of how perception and standards have changed, like we mentioned before. It's kind of a shame.
I'm split on this. I'm very split.
Who knows? We actually did get an adaptation of, Rapunzel eventually with its own take. Maybe it can happen again. Who knows?
I'll just say I'm split on this finale here. Like, on the one hand, gorgeous animation, great music, but the way it uses its music and, from what you've told me, cuts down on stuff to the point where even I, someone who wasn't even familiar with the Firebird play, is... seeing for the first time, I feel like, okay, for something called the Firebird play, there was very little of the Firebird.
And yes, Joe, just like at the end of Trolley Central Park, now we're seeing Poison Ivy taking over the planet.
What is she gonna...
I'm just reminded more of Moana, to be honest.
Oh my god, she's even overtaking the Firebird's fortress! Jesus! I guess she got some vengeance or something.
Yeah, she's gonna go full Stanley on this crap.
Again, over-vegetation can be a problem too, just say.
She's happy, Jova, let her be.
So much so that she jump scares with us. Like, seriously, it wasn't like the actual jump scare that spooked me, but that one actually did.
Because I didn't warn about that. And yes, Jova, by the way, that's how the movie ends, by the way. Much like with the original Fantasia, no closing narration, everything cut to credits.
But this time
really?
Well, that's the thing. We actually get credits this time, whereas with the original Fantasia...
The problem is, Joe, that we're using the Carnival of Animals for the credit sequence. Yes. Oh, my God. Whatever. Final thoughts, I guess. Yeah, we're pretty much done.
Is it weird that even though this movie actually has credits, it's still shorter than the original Fantasia movie?
I think we're about to mention it. There actually was a writer behind the sketches between each part. So I wonder.
Let's see.
James Levine, of course.
The Chicago Symphony Orchestra.
Again, great job for what you had to do. So. And then you go, original done by Leopold. Supervisory Major Director.
Hendel Butoy, Lisa C. Cook is the associate producer.
I actually don't think there were many animators on this one. CGI imagery, production manager. Readings.
What the?
And now concept arts, yes. Editors. Now we're actually about to telling all about there you go, Pines of Rome.
Rhapsody in Blue.
Used by permission. Oh, so Gershwin's still alive? At least was when this movie came out.
I guess.
I like the idea that they used these credits just for telling each piece, so it's pretty cool. It's just that...
Oh, host sequences.
Written by 3 people, Don Hahn, Irene Mackie, and Diane Reynolds. These people are the ones to blame for the cringe.
Alright, so...
Final thoughts. Go ahead, you guys. I would like to reserve final to tell more. Actually, no. Let me use this to tell about the trivia, about the same before. Just for pump and circumstance.
Wait.
Because
Tim Allen was an animator on this?
Maybe it's another Tim Allen, Jova.
Probably a different.
Okay, apparently, the Pomp and Circumstance segment was going to be a large wedding and graduation, get this, by having the Disney princes getting diplomas and getting married to the princesses who are having children, and they even invited animated versions of the 9 old men. This got rejected for various reasons, such as the idea of a multi-couple wedding and graduation would have seemed too cultish, and according to the book Disney Lore, could have implied that they had engaged in underage sex, seeing that almost all the princesses are under the ages of 18. For what it's worth, the chess tunes trope was averted with one of those princesses, Ariel, having a direct-to-video sequel a couple of years later. But yeah, that was supposed to be the original.
So basically,
Michael Eisner wanted to have such an ego-stroking moment about having an entire segment about how the 9 old men congratulate with the creations they did. My God.
Okay, look, I know people say, oh, Michael Eisner was a nicer guy than Jeffrey Katzenberg. Maybe he was, but it sounds... That's what I've heard most people say when comparing him to Katzenberg, but honestly, if anything, it sounds like Katzenberg had the more successful career, even if it was accidental. And mind you, that's with Disney strictly. Ever since Disney and DreamWorks, Katzenberg's been on a downward trend himself. Don't even.
But anyway, go with your final thoughts. I will be last.
Oh, okay. Go on, Shirai.
First experience
right.
in our Shirai. Go on.
Sure. I actually didn't mind this one so much. I mean, I can see why people probably like it less than the original Fantasia, but I still think it's pretty good. My favorite one being the one from New York specifically.
The Rhapsody in Blue. Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind that the shorts don't connect to each other specifically. I can understand why that would be an issue for some, though. But I mean, aside from the it's this one again.
Stand up, Shirai. Come on.
No, I refuse. Aside from the flamingo one, because that was kind of whatever. They were all pretty good. I mean, aside from the second one, my other favorite would probably be the one with the toys.
Okay.
Huh.
The Nutcracker. Sorry, not the Nutcracker. The Teen Soldier. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't remember the names. I mean, the animation is all really good. The music is great. This is just... It's alright.
Alright.
Again, I didn't hear about it before watching it, but I don't think this was really bad at all.
Also, Tony Anselmo was an additional artist for this.
Yeah, he
an
was.
additional animator.
Oh, you don't know, Theo? Basically, before he started becoming the voice of Donald, he was actually an animator at Disney.
That's pretty cool.
It was because of working on anime on the
Soundtrack on cassette and compact disc. Sorry.
He was an animator at the main
Oh my God, Steve! Seriously.
Oh, hey!
Yes.
One last joke
Didn't
for
he
the road.
replace the original Donald because...
Yes, basically what happened was he met Clarence Nash back in the 80s, and they got along, they became friends, and they got to a point, oh, how do you do that voice exactly? Because he was really good. Oh, I do here, and he showed him how to do it. Like, okay. Well, eventually, just out of nowhere, he was just practicing on the shower, and it clicked, and Tony was able to do the voice real good. And then Clarence Nash, oh, this is pretty cool. And then over the course of the next few months, Clarence Nash would occasionally come up to him and go, "How would you say this in Donald's voice?" and stuff like that. And Tony even said, like, yeah, little did Tony know that Clarence knew that he was having health problems, that he was secretly preparing Tony to succeed him. And later, when he was in the hospital and Tony Anselmo came to visit him, Clarence Nash literally told him, "Please, you have to do this. You have to be Donald now." That was literally his last request to Tony Anselmo on the hospital.
Wow.
I remember you saying this before, but I'm done with my final thoughts.
Also, but I checked in the meantime. Apparently, there was an actual Father Noah's Ark Silly Symphony short. I don't remember that one. And apparently,
it's actually really good. I might show you after this if you want. It's actually really good.
Maybe tomorrow because it had too much time. But also another thing. Apparently, according to the DVD commentary of the movie, the animators told that for the Fireball sequence, they were heavily inspired by Studio Ghibli's movie like Nausicaa, and I can see where they were going for.
Oh, that explains a lot.
But go on, Pedro.
Okay, it's one of those things. It's not just the fact that the shorts are not connected. Aside from the New York short, which is the one that actually has commentary and has a bit more personality to it, most of the shorts are just there to do the exact same thing that the original Fantasia did, which is what if you could watch music? Yeah.
What would you say in particular makes this weaker than the original?
Well, first of all, while these are really good pieces, I still prefer the pieces they picked for the first movie. I feel like they're stronger pieces in general. I feel like the overall selection of classical music from the first movie was a better selection. Not that this is a bad selection, mind you. It's actually a really great selection. It's just that when you compare to the original, it is a step down in terms of a selection of classical music. I would have preferred a few more symphonies from Beethoven personally. But whatever. The point is, it's not just that the shorts are not connected. It's more sort of aside from the New York one. Again, just like with the original, what if you could watch music? Well, yeah, that's nice, and it works really cool as a short. Like when I'm just hearing the piece of music itself with animation going to it. But when I'm watching this for just 2 hours, not in this case because this is only over an hour, but when I'm watching it just 2 hours, like with the original movie, it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, this is nice, but I kind of want. But if I'm going to sit here for 2 hours, I kind of want something a bit more substantial. Rather than just watch music, it's one of those cases where I think that, again, like I said, these shorts work really well on their own, but when you pile them together in a movie, I don't enjoy them as much. I enjoy them perfectly well when I'm watching them on their own when I feel like it. In the same way that I enjoy listening to a great album, like I hear a track here and there. But that doesn't mean I want to literally listen to an entire album nonstop for an hour. Like I like to enjoy it on my own pace. It's the same thing for in the same way that I listen to music on my own pace. I like watching music at my own pace, and I think watching music for 2 hours, like it doesn't quite work as well as a theater experience for me. That's the primary thing for me, really. I feel like these things would work much better as just individual shorts, which is kind of like what they did with some of the shorts that, like for example, the most recent short that Pixar made, the Borrow, which is accompanying Soul at Disney Plus, is basically a story of a bunny finding a house at the sound of classical music, and it's just 6 minutes, and it's perfectly easily digestible, and it's a great short. In fact, if you watch Soul, everybody go watch that short. It's really great. It's Pixar's first foray into hand-drawn animation, and it looks great.
So that's the short that that would have accompanied Soul in theaters.
Yes, they put it on Disney Plus as well. That's a good example of what I mean. Like when I say this, like I can love a short like this if I'm just watching that one short, and okay, that was a really nice short. Now, whether or not I feel like it, I might watch another one. But just watching 2 hours of these back to back. It gets to a point where like, okay, this is nice, but like I kind of want something more out of a full-blown movie. So that's the primary thing when it comes to these kinds of movies for me. As for that, it does really feel like a step down in a lot of ways. That the comedy is terrible.
Okay. Except for that one sequence after the Sorcerer's Apprentice, that one was actually clever, I'd argue.
I guess it's just that the one before it was terrible.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
It really, I think it's one of those cases. The comedy was terrible. The flamingo sequence, like I don't even know why they bothered to even include that in. To be honest with you, and again, the blatant fillerish attitude by including the original Sorcerer's Apprentice short. Not to mention, it creates this visual clash that kind of breaks my immersion when I'm watching the original Nine Old Men animation, and then they try to have Mickey interact with the live action people, and the new animators don't. The new animators are nowhere near as good at animating Mickey as the old ones. Because when you look at Mickey in the live action bits, he looks so it's like you literally just got done watching the Sorcerer's Apprentice, animated by the Nine Old Men, and now you're watching Mickey as animated by, I'm guessing, Eric Goldberg, maybe. And I love Eric Goldberg, but you are no match for Frank Thomas, my buddy. Mm-hmm. So it does form that, like, I feel like, again, the Sorcerer's Apprentice not only is filler, it kind of creates this immersion breaking moment where, oh no, I'm seeing Mickey in wildly different animation qualities back to back. So it's kind of for me. So yeah, but that aside, the first segment is really good. The final one is also really good, on its own merits. Although it has some issues with it when it comes to butchering the story and stuff. But that's about it. It's on its own for what it is. It's fine. It's definitely nowhere near as I mean, even though I have my issues with Fantasia, the original Fantasia was a much more spectacular experience in general. This one feels like Diet Fantasia. Like it's not even 2 hours. It's just an hour, over an hour, really.
Again, and mind you, unlike Fantasia didn't have credits. This one does have credits, and it's still shorter.
It's weird. Like I feel like, which is weird because there's so many great pieces they could have used to elongate this to 2 hours, and it feels like they didn't. It really feels like they didn't have that much faith in this project to begin with. So,
which, like I mentioned, it seems to be shown from the very beginning. Again, it's particular that Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted had this as the one movie that he wanted nothing to do with it. I get the idea that the development was really that troubled.
That's the thing too. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Jeffrey Katzenberg at all. It's just I'm quite the opposite actually. It's just the thing is too, when Jeffrey Katzenberg became the creative officer of Walt Disney Animation Studios, one of the things he noticed, and this was a stated intention by him, one of his primary intentions was that a lot of animators, when they were when he came into the studio, were constantly asking themselves when they were in trouble figuring out the story, what would Walt do? What would Walt do? And he was the one who had the balls to step up and say, guys, Walt is no longer here. We don't have to do everything the way Walt did. We have to do things our way.
This is what helped Disney finally get out of the infamous Dark Age that had been a thing ever since Walt's death here and there. Like I said, I understand Katzenberg may have been a jerk, and nowadays he has made a lot of blunders, but I will always remember that he did help the Disney studio get out of its rut of trying to do what Walt always did.
Sometimes someone has to be the bad guy, and in this case, Jeffrey Katzenberg being the bad guy and having the balls to say, guys, let fucking go. Walt is not
let it go.
Here.
And you know what?
You need to stop asking yourselves about what Walt do. We need to move forward, not backwards.
And you know what? He was right. Look at what we got out of the Renaissance era. Arguably some of the best Disney movies ever. So, of course, I can't help but feel like there's something symbolic about them once again trying to go back to an old ideals of Walt in this movie. And, well, look what happened.
How does this relate to this movie, though? This movie, in a lot of ways, especially considering the Roy Disney intro, this movie feels a lot like the animators and Roy Disney and everybody else trying to let's bring back the old Fantasia Walt Disney style. And remember, Jeffrey Katzenberg was very adamant about the studio moving forward, not try to just hopelessly recapture the glories of the 40s, even though that's impossible. And especially especially as we mentioned, this movie is heavily guilty of nostalgia pandering. I can actually see him, Teo, looking at the overall proposition of even, for example, I knowing what I know about him, Teo, when he heard about the inclusion of the social that's probably one of the big reasons. Oh God, no, this is so nostalgia pandering. I don't want anything to do with this. I want to actually do something new, and not just try to recapture what Walt did 40 years ago. I can understand that perspective, to be fair, because it's just not. It was an attempt in vain, because it's just not. You're never gonna get a movie like that ever again, no matter how hard you try. There's not talent left in the world that is capable of reproducing that.
And we have to remember, even back at its girth here and there, the movie still failed even back then. Unfortunate as it is.
Yeah, the point is, this is a movie that it's a nice attempt to recapture the old, but it fails hard. And I can that's one of those rare cases where I'm kind of gonna have to agree with Jeffrey Katzenberg. This was probably a project that would have again, like I said, this would have been fine if these shorts were released individually. Have these shorts released before the movies.
Oh yeah, they would be great for that.
Pixar at this point was already releasing Gary's Game before A Bug's Life, so this practice was already going on at Pixar. So what they could have done is they could have made these things and released them before theaters. I think that would have worked a lot better. That way, these shorts would not have to have a huge box office run as a movie.
Actually,
which means
Pedro,
it would be a lot easier for the shorts. That way there wouldn't be as much pressure on the animators.
it's funny you mention that, Pedro, because they actually did try releasing some shorts for Disney, like, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Before that, they had the 20-something minute-long short of The Prince and the Pauper shown before that.
Yeah, they did. Not just that, but the little match girl that was supposed to be part of Fantasia 2006 was released on the Little Mermaid DVD as a bonus. And that is one of the more beloved Disney shorts of that time, specifically because it can be consumed in the way that I think is best, just consumed on its own with nothing else attached to it. It really is one of those cases where I feel like this project, while fine on its own, still does not manage to justify its own existence, because I cannot help but compare it to the original, and the original completely eclipses this. So it really comes across as just, I guess it really is like Jeffrey Katzenberg must have thought. This feels like a couple of old men trying to recapture the glory days of their youth. That's what this feels like, kind of. There are some good bits here and there, like I said. Don't get me wrong. It's just that, it doesn't. It's a movie that is fine enough to watch once in a while, but it really is something that I think even Melody Time was better, to be honest. Like, I think Melody Time had better shorts.
I can definitely see that, because the shorts did have more story to them.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. Whereas this, again, they're trying to recapture what the original movie did. Although even the original movie, when it wasn't having story, was still impressive as fuck. This one doesn't really have that factor going for it. So yeah, it's fine. But if it never got made, I wouldn't if the fact that Fantasia 2006 never got made. Doesn't take away my sleep, because I don't really believe in this particular creative team to really recapture the glory of the original. I think they've proven here that they can't. So Fantasia 2006...
Well, to be fair, stuff had changed a lot since then. Do you think the new ones can take a shot at it?
I can see Pixar doing it well, and yeah, I can see that happening, actually, because now that the studio, although to be fair to you, I think it's also one of those cases where, again, it's like I said, remember, Terry, it's like Meet the Robinsons said, keep moving forward. They're focused on moving forward. Not looking backwards. It is possible. I mean, like I said, the Borrow short by Pixar is a good example of how you can make something like this with classical music. So it is still possible to, again, watch Borrow. It's actually a really good short. So no, it can be done, but I wouldn't lose sleep if it's not being made, because I actually appreciate the mentality of moving forward and not trying to recapture the glory days of yesterday. And then because if you fail at it, it just comes across as pathetic. But yeah. Try this, you better have an amazing vision that really manages to, at the very least, not feel lackluster in bits like this one does. So I guess that's the best I can put it. All right, that's it. Joe, I guess.
Okay, let me just put it like this. I think I get it. This movie, from what I remember, had a lot of hype back in the day, so I can understand why, despite the limitations, a lot of people would have had their eyes on it. Problem is, I feel like it's trying to do a lot of what Fantasia did, but not changing enough to evolve with the times. Like, okay, we could argue that the main reason Fantasia back in the day failed was because of World War II and all that. But you can't help but also wonder if maybe there were things that really did legit need to be improved. Like, maybe people would have been more enticed if these stories were more tied together. Like, it's kind of weird, but in a way, the stories feel even more separate here, except for the Mickey and Donald ones, which actually do feel linked together. Okay, I'll say this. Had the movie had a lot more new stuff, I don't think I would have minded them actually bringing back the Sorcerer's Apprentice. But hell, at the very least, they could have tried to upgrade the Sorcerer's Apprentice scene, like, maybe not even touching up the animation, but touching up the music, having the orchestra play a new bit here and there. Or...
Like I said, Jova, they did, but they only relegated it to the actual official soundtrack.
And that continues to baffle me.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the theme of this movie. It's baffling as a whole. Don't get me wrong, I loved Rhapsody in Blue. That one hit the mark in there. I actually really did like the Donald one as well. Sure, it got goofy, but overall I feel it worked here and there. The Whales one was weird, but also cool at times. As for the... I think part of the issue is like, well, there are some ones that really don't work out that well. Like, the Butterflies one is just... The Flamingo one, I constantly ask, why, God, why? And then there's the Firebird short, and yeah, I just reminded myself that there are very few shorts in this. Well, not just that there are a few shorts, but there's...
They're short on their own. The original also had, not many pieces, but they were meaty in their own.
Yeah, I think what really seals the deal is the fact that the Firebird finale does not really feel like that grand a finale. Like, let me put it like this. I feel like the Donald short would have been a better finale. Like, what it lacked maybe in content, it made up for in the bombasticness of its music and score. And, honestly, it ends off on a fine enough note here and there. The Firebird feels like it's trying to be, Night on Baldwin Mountain, but not... But it forgets what made Night on Baldwin Mountain work. Like, it tries to give us
the mountain, Jova. Baldwin is a family of people.
Yes, sorry. Night on Bald Mountain gave... okay, the Firebird short also tries to give us a clear bad guy. Except not really, but sort of. Like, are we supposed to hate the Firebird or something? It's really unclear, and I get it.
Again, Joe, he just wanted his beauty sleep.
That's the thing, the movie kind of demonizes him because it's such a sad scene when the fairy's supposedly dead, except, well, not really, and she comes back better than ever. Like, I get it. Like Shuri said, that's supposed to be the theme of that short, but it just... It feels like it ends off of just like, oh, it's over. That happened. Like I said...
It's like we saw, there wasn't even any proper transition to the end. It was just, well, that's it.
And that's the thing. It's not even so much it ends on that short. No, we still do get one last shot of the band packing up and leaving and an after credits joke of Steve Martin apparently being left behind. But... And yeah, seriously, I gotta come to that. What was the point of all of these guest cameos if you didn't really do much with them? Oh, don't get me wrong, some worked better than others, like...
I'm sorry, Joe. Penn and Teller, seriously, Penn and Teller are not for kids.
But apparently Disney thought they could make them work for kids. And how fitting that they literally have them come before the literal retread with The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
To be fair,
Gilbert Gottfried as a stand-up comic is as raunchy as it gets, and yet they were
even Robin Williams had that. But okay, I get that. It's just that it felt odd.
But yeah,
like it was so sudden.
This movie as a whole is so odd, and I will say this: can you imagine how much it would have hurt if somebody actually did live around the time that the original Fantasia came out, and that you waited...
Yeah, I checked in the meantime, and Mr. Gershwin did die in the 30s, so sorry about that.
I do wonder, though, how disappointing it would be if somebody was expecting a sequel but better, and then were disappointed by the sequel, having waited, 60 years for it.
Well, not on that length, but I kind of was. Like I said, I grew up with the original movie, so I was really ecstatic to see this in the cinema. And to be fair, as a little kid, I did enjoy it. It's just that the more time passes, the more the problems start to arise. I can't ignore them.
It really is a shame, too. Do I feel like an idea like Fantasia could work? Yes, it is possible, but I do feel like a lot of stuff does need to change for it to really work. Like, maybe give the whole intertwining the stories better a try here and there. I mean, okay, look. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of good shorts, amazing shorts, bad shorts, and just weird shorts all hobbled together into a movie. Kind of like the original, only like Pedro said, done notably worse. Alas, alas, alas. Tio, your final thoughts.
Okay, for me, it's fine for when it works. The problem is that sometimes it just doesn't. When it's a thing that it was less noticeable in the first movie. When this one doesn't work, you really feel it, and this keeps piling up with all the factors that the movie is going for: travel development cycle, overinflated tickets, the fact that it's super short, the pieces are short on their own, the questionable choice for the host. Seriously, why this the right ideal moment to introduce Penn and Teller to kids?
And from what you're telling me, it sounds like this was going to be a big vanity project for Michael Eisner at some point before
considering also what Pedro said before, I'm not too surprised.
I think I do notice it though. It's like, well, on their own, some of these shorts are pretty fantastic, and I will say this: if they had, made the whole if they had made the whole Sorcerer's Apprentice thing and the Donald short like their own shorts, I mean, yeah, wonkiness of the transition to like how Mickey is animated by then, it does actually seem pretty interesting. Hell, how much more interesting would it have been if each short was actually focused on, a Mickey Mouse character as like the main focus for each one here
and
or
then
there.
The final one, like Pedro was slightly saying during the commentary, the final one, like unites them together for a common cause. A miniaturized MCU phase in a way.
Pretty much. I mean, I'll say this. There's so much potential in that one transition from the Sorcerer's Apprentice short to the Donald short that, yeah, I feel like we could have made something out of this. I mean, okay, technically House of Mouse does that on a regular basis, but, well, yeah, I hate to say it, House of Mouse probably would have been a better take on this than this actual big-budget movie. That's kind of sad. And I love House of Mouse.
But no, like I said, I have a bit of a nostalgic bias because, like I said, I watched it when I was a kid. I was a little kid, and I had already hype behind it because I was such a fan of the first movie. But again, the more the year passes, the more the cracks start to get bigger, and noticeable. The CGI has aged all over the place. You can chalk it up as a product of its time, but in some places, like at least in some bits of the Pines of Rome, you can definitely feel it's more jarring. Or even at the beginning, like the cracks that form in the ground for the first segment. So let me go quickly in order, might as well. Fate knocking at the door. It's a nice sequence, and it's based on a very famous piece anyway. So it was kind of obvious that it should probably be included in the piece. It's just that, again, it tries to cut and fugue, but instead is much shorter and has this instead mini story attached to it, while to cut and fugue was abstract for the sake of it. But so yeah, it's again a mixed bag and already a weird starting point. Pines of Rome is actually pretty fine. Like I said, the CGI is jarring in a couple of places, but honestly, it is fine and it builds up to this good climax. And the music that has been used is also relatively popular on its own, and so pretty good. Rhapsody in Blue is probably the piece that has standed more the test of time, helped the fact that it's completely 2D as well, and also as a love letter to the Fantasia's a bootleg sequel in a way, the Melody Time and Make My Music. It's also again a nice change of pace. Instead of traditional music, instead jazz, which is was not super conventional for the concert halls. But anyway, there's the Shostakovich concerto for piano with the Tin Soldiers. It's fine, but it goes on way too fast, like I said. The original story was already way too short, and and I get the idea that what Bert Milner said in the introduction piece, the fact that the Disney animators could not find the matching music to do a short about it. I get the idea that that was a contributing factor because they just had to work with what they had, and the end result was this like super fast thing. Never mind the fact that again they changed also the ending because the original was not exactly a super happy tale. But even regardless of that, like I said, it's especially noticeable in the final bits where it goes on the pieces like, oh shit, we're missing the mark. We need to cut the corners everywhere. But anyway, then the flamingos of work. The Carnival of Animals is like I had a music hour when I was in middle school, and they actually made us listen the entire Carnival of Animals. It's basically a textbook example of giving a leitmotif to each animal based on an instrument, So it's actually a pretty cool set of pieces to choose from. You choose only one, it's super short, and the animation they attach to it is completely out of place and doesn't fit with the quote-unquote dignity that the previous movie and this one had. Then there's again the rehash of Sorcerer Apprentice. We already discussed about what it's not earned, but it could have made sense if the context was a bit better. The pomp and circumstance bit is actually nice enough, mostly because it's once again a chance to give Donald the spotlight, and the music is also pretty famous, and it narrowly avoided to be a complete batshit insane piece, because it was originally Michael Eisner had in mind. The Firebird, I already told that it's actually pretty fine. The music is fantastic. Once again, the Chicago Orchestra does a spectacular job. The sad thing is that they cut away so much stuff from the pieces they decided to took that I really did not see the point unless they really had trouble finishing up the animation or they could not agree, on making the piece long enough. So we just cut this piece here. And it's kind of a shame because the animation is probably the best in the entire movie, especially because it goes back to the traditional school of animation of layers, and traditional painted backgrounds and all. It's also the one with a more mystical side to it, although, like we said, it tries to be Dragon Ball Mountain and it fails miserably at that, because that's also the problem with the movie that also Peter was mentioning. It tries to capture the glory days and tries so much to impress his alcoholic grandfather when it doesn't even need to. That's the core problem in a nutshell. There is a right idea in mind to evolve from the past with stuff like the Rhapsody in Blue. But it's like an isolated case, and combining all these elements, it was kind of obvious that the product was not bound for greatness like they wanted.
Okay.
And it is a shame because I still have faith that, an actual proper follow-up to Fantasia can be done even in a modern context. And with considering the different acquisition that Disney had and the different stuff change that they had, all the ingredients are out there to create something of that kind of caliber without having to, tread in the swamp that 2000 had to tread in.
Can I just point out the irony that out of all of these shorts, pretty much the one we've mainly agreed is the best is Rhapsody in Blue, the short that one could argue takes more inspiration from Melody Time and Make Mine Music, which were seen as lesser things to Fantasia back then, but I think now that we've actually experienced all these musical packagings, I think I see that Make My Music and Melody Time were actually kind of evolutions in a sense. Ones that may have necessary stuff.
The problem is that while evolution, they were done with such a lesser budget anyway that they were not, strong enough to actually be considered actual proper follow-up in a way.
Yeah. I think what this shows was that now that they had the budget, they needed to evolve more without trying to just do a lot of the same stuff that the original Fantasia did here and there.
But like I said, with the current state that Disney is, they have actually all the ingredients to do something. Even if they want, to not do just like a simple container like the previous two movies, even in something more similar to what Pedro was suggesting, tying everything to instead of a cohesive narrative or even a musical style. And hell, potentially, potentially expand to what we represent, similar to what you were saying, Jova, instead of having completely original piece and maybe like having one to guess, have all the pieces being based on something already existing in Disney, like say having a sequence based on, I don't know, Wreck-It Ralph, another one based on a Marvel property, another one, even one maybe based on Star Wars using one of John Williams' score. You know, that actually could be really fit because the original idea of designing Star Wars was to potentially emulate also old style mute movies without sound.
That actually would be pretty freaking cool. And hey, Disney aren't exactly afraid of having Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney crossover.
In fact, that's actually one of the thought process that were behind Genndy Tartakovsky's 2003 Clone Wars animated movie. A lot of them do not have many dialogue, which is a thought process that he will use later on for his current series that he's doing, Primal. But then again, I'm just suggesting ideas for the fact that an actual proper third sequel to Fantasia is still possible to this day, but it needs a clear direction and a much smoother development cycle, because otherwise we're gonna just get a result like this, you know, and it's not gonna please literally anyone. And it will eventually be forgot because, for liking or not, the first movie is literally timeless in one way or another. It has dated elements, but in its own way, it is timeless as a celebration of music and animation in its own. That's why it is my favorite Disney movie. But this one had so many big shoes to fill, but circumstances were already basically against it. And yeah, I guess in a way, Mr. Katzenberg really was viewing the bigger picture back in the 90s. But considering also in recent times, Disney has managed, as said, they don't want to focus on sequels for the time being. Instead, again, moving forward, I get the idea that a project like this will not see the light of day for a long time. Who knows? Well, it took 60 years for the second title. Maybe it'll take 60 for the third one. Who knows?
Well, I guess by that point, I'll have grandkids by the time that it comes out.
In the meantime, you can find some things through various Pixar shorts and more recently Borrowed, which uses classical music as well. So they are still outputting Fantasia-esque stuff. Just on a minor scale.
Yeah, while the main bulk project died, the spirit still lives on in some capacity. I also really recommend, for those who haven't seen it, Destino, which it was the one that Ben Mildred said while talking about Salvador Dali, which is the one that actually uses Salvador Dali's art style with, I think it's an Argentinian singer. It's pretty cool, another abstract kind of sequence. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, in terms of what will happen next, like we said, there were some other stuff where we missed from the 40s, like the duology of Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. They are really short on their own. But for an extra pinch of trivia, that it's tied to also two things from this sequel. In the 70s, an Italian very ambitious animator called Bruno Bozzetto decided to try his own take for a Fantasia-style movie. The problem is that since it was the dark age of animation, he tried to make it exclusive for adults. Not in a sense that they're like sex every 5 minutes, but instead of, being just art and music for the sake of it, he wanted also to have messages behind it, messages that were topical at the time. And he called this thing allegro ma non troppo, which is a term used in music that can be roughly translated into wordplay and could be said, for example, not so fast. The two trivias about that is the fact that one of these major pieces that he uses is Ravel's Bolero, that has a similar type of crescendo and march of animals, very similar to what the whales do at the end of Pines of Rome. But the funny thing about it is that it also uses pretty much the same identical pieces of the Firebird for its last sequence as well. So I actually do wonder if someone in the development team actually got to know about this movie and actually decided to, homage it in some kind of way. I wonder. Now, the thing about that movie is that while it was actually released outside of my country, there is no actual official English dub because, yes, in a way to kind of satisfy a bit what Pedro was asking, the pieces are actually connected by a loose narrative of basically an animator and an orchestra kind of enslaved by the system. Yeah, it makes sense in context. But it's probably not the best story around. But again, it's all in Italian, so we'll see if we can work it out. So in case, potentially tune in next time for this particular Italian Fantasia. Otherwise, we'll see. See ya.
See ya.
Yep.
Yeah.